Hey there. Is this seat taken? You work for Pfizer. My question for you is, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public the fact that they're mutating the COVID viruses?
Is this real life? I'm literally a liar. I was trying to impress a person on a date by lying. This is absurd.
Please don't touch me. Well, this is not. By the way, don't tell anybody.
Someone who's just working at a company to literally help the public. You up. You really did. Please bring the cops as soon as possible. I'm feeling very unsafe.
Can you please unlock your door?
No, don't let them leave.
Please unlock the door.
What is going on here?
Please unlock the door. Please unlock the door. Unlock the door. We're trying to unlock the door.
Golly. And yeah, who did lock the door? Somebody locked the door with that. That's the video from my very good friend James O'Keefe and Project Veritas showing this Pfizer executive. He's on camera admitting to all of these things that we always discussed and had suspicions of and kind of knew. But to see it so resolutely confirmed in a cavalier kind of way by this guy was truly eye-opening. Welcome back to the program. Dana Lash here with you. You can listen around the country, hundreds of affiliates from the radio program side. You can also watch us on YouTube, Facebook, The First, through now DirecTV, channel 349. Joining us now, he's been on the show before. We so appreciate his time. Dr. Robert Malone, as you know, he is the original inventor of the mRNA vaccine platform used by the very Pfizer company we're talking about, Moderna, as well. And he's been so outspoken with all of this. And he has the unityprojectonline.com. Dr. Malone, always so good to be with you. I'm so grateful you were able to join us today. He joins us by phone. I wanted to get your just initial reaction when you saw this video come out and you saw and heard everything that this executive was saying, their hurt and rescue approach, when he was talking about directed evolution as opposed to gain of function research. It just seemed, like a rhetoric to me. What was your initial thought?
I was stunned. So I got to see this as a embargoed release because they wanted to record my own comments and a reaction, which they did, and that's appended in their released video. But the content is shocking, of course, but deeper than that, for me, what was stunning was what this person said in his behaviors, his gestures, his mannerisms about the corporate culture of Pfizer, that this would be somebody who is, it's either 2 or 3 levels below Borla, below the CEO, behaving in this way. He's incredibly immature in his behavior, cavalier, seems to have absolutely no empathy, no recognition of the huge human tragedy that has gone on here, and he's the acknowledgement that this is all about money, and using this crass language like cash cows, things that we all, as you say, but to have this coming out of the mouth of a senior Pfizer global executive responsible for strategic planning for mRNA products I was just stunned. And then underneath that, the immunology that he's talking about is garbage. Monkeys are not humans. Serial passaging in monkeys is not going to get you to what they're talking about. And for me, the epiphany was later, as I was thinking about all of this, what this means underneath it, as I said on Tucker last night, is that Pfizer recognizes that their products aren't working and they cannot get out ahead of the virus. And so they're now reaching for extraordinary measures, really illegal activities, because they're frustrated that they can't make a product that works.
Wow, that's a very good point. We're talking with Dr. Robert Malone, who's responding to this Pfizer video that Project Veritas published. There hasn't been a statement from Pfizer. I mean, it's been over 48 hours now. No statement from Pfizer yet.
More than that, Dana. More than that, Dana. This has been amazing watching, okay? And it illustrates the power of Pfizer, as Tucker pointed out yesterday, but he didn't even begin to scratch the surface. Within really minutes of when this was released, there became a memory holding project, the likes of which I have never seen before. everything about this gentleman became scrubbed off the internet and scrubbed off the Wayback Machine. Google immediately started monitoring and manually managing searches because this was trending so hot. Just like they did after I was on the Rogan podcast and I said those 3 words, mass formation psychosis, that caused Silicon Valley to just lose bladder control. And the same exact things, the same screenshot clips of what Google put up as it was manually modifying the search results, which illustrates how tightly connected Google is to Pfizer. Yeah. I mean, what happened? And then another example, the Daily Mail in the UK put up an article covering Veritas's release. That. It was the only one, and it was immediately pulled down.
I saw that too. My link no longer worked. I thought that was quite interesting. Reaching all the way over to, and that's one of the largest, for people unfamiliar with Daily Mail, it's a British-based publication, but they have the largest distribution, I think, in the world. So that was pretty significant. That's what Dr. Malone's pointing out. The fact that they were able to even have that suppressed, and I don't know what else you would say of it. I mean, because it's not up there. That should be above the fold, so to speak, and it's not. That's pretty powerful.
So Pfizer, what all the evidence is that Pfizer has decided to just lock down, batten the hatches, and hope this blows over. So another thing they've done is they've shut off all comments on any of their social media sites, except to people that they follow. So only friends can comment on Pfizer right now. And they also shut off all the comments in all of their media outreach channels, et cetera. They won't talk to Fox News. They batten down the hatches, and they're hoping they can weather the storm.
We're talking with Dr. Robert Malone. This is, I wanted to ask you a question about, because you had mentioned how they can't get ahead of this virus, and they cannot develop a product, for the lack of something better to call it, to actually stop it. They're still operating under this emergency use authorization, which allows that, because he's talking about
in the U.S.
Yes, in the U.S. He's talking about what is essentially this hurt and rescue business model. We're going to have gain of function research, and we're going to figure out all the different ways that we can combat this, and we're going to package it and sell it. Am I correct in thinking they're still able to do that because of that emergency use authorization still?
No, technically, so this whole issue of gain of function, or they're calling it directed evolution, which is really tomato versus tomato, it's wordplay, as we've seen done all the way through with all this propaganda. But they're operating globally, remember? And as I mentioned last night, one of their tightest relationships has to do with the Israeli government, which has not signed the biowarfare treaty. There's all kinds of places Pfizer can do this. Don't think just nationally. Pfizer is one of the most powerful companies in the world, and they can kind of really tell governments what to do. They have enough financial power, and they really did what they did with Europe in particular, and many of the other states, and to a significant extent the United States, is they used fear, they promoted fear, they bought media to produce fear. And in so doing, they intimidated the politicians from all over the world and put them in a box in which, if they didn't play by Pfizer's rules, which included indemnification, then they had no functional alternative. And so politicians faced with public pressure were put in a box where they had to sign these really egregious contract agreements with Pfizer. I mean, the whole thing has just been a brutal game of hardball.
Yeah,
and all of us have been the victims.
What do you think is, because the impact of this video, I think, is pretty significant. I mean, especially since I think the last time you and I spoke, we were discussing how they were trying to get kids on this vaccine schedule, which also, in a way, the way that I understand how the law works is that it kind of removes them from any sort of liability that may result.
Yeah, that has to do with some unique clauses in American law having to do with the vaccines and the Vaccine for Children program. But what we're dealing with here is something that's perverse far beyond that. And Pfizer has a situation where they have a single customer. It's a perfect situation. As they were talking about, it's an ideal cash cow. They have a single customer. It's the U.S. government. The U.S. government they advertise the product for Pfizer, and then they distribute it. and then they mandate it, and then they deploy all of these various censorship strategies for anybody who raises any concerns about it. I mean, I suspect that when we, and you know, we know now from the Twitter files that Mr. Scott Gottlieb, who is the exemplar of the revolving door that the gentleman was speaking of, he left the FDA senior position as overall director, took a 2-month vacation, and then joined Pfizer's board of directors with a very nice, juicy salary. And then he's busy, caught now in the Twitter files, interacting with Twitter to tell them to censor tweets from Brett Gior, who functionally in terms of rank within the White House was, I think, 3 levels above where Gottlieb was at the time. And Gior appropriately tweeted out information early on about natural immunity, and Gottlieb acted to have that information suppressed on behalf of Pfizer. The corruption here, the ability of this company to control the narrative, to control governments, this is the consequence of Bill Clinton's passage and advocacy for the law that enabled the pharmaceutical industry to advertise directly in the United States, a practice that only one other country allows in the world.
And that's incredibly significant. Dr. Robert Malone, we're grateful you were able to give us some of your time today. I know we're going to be talking again soon because I have a feeling, as is in keeping with the way Project Veritas does things, that this is probably only one of more videos to come. So we're going to have more things to talk about. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Have a great weekend. We appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, Dana.